happened with the financial system. There was no limit of the rules. We have egoism, outlaw, no sense. Repetition, sacrifice, losses. On the other side, with the cynicism, passiveness, bored, we're slow. We don't recognize people based on what they do, but who they are. It's like the contact that you have, no? Politics, distrust, bureaucracy, neurology. But in the center, we have experiment, agility, entrepreneurship, creativity based on a healthy chaos. And on the other side, we have learning, recognition, efficiency. The thing is that, how can we move? The chaotic is the capacity to move in between. When people are too structured, we have to provoke chaos. When we work with Cirque du Soleil, in our company, when they create a new show, they always take the most creative individual and we put it with the most engineering, accounting person. And they don't fight. Why? Because they need each other. We need to find people totally different so they can balance. If it's too creative, the show will not work on. If it's too conservative or too down to earth, people will not dream in the show. And that's what we have to do with the organization. Creativity. We talked about imagination, the individual. Now let's talk about organization, and let's talk about your role as leaders. We cannot be creative in cubicles. These are cubicles. No? Imagine people at the circus working like this. Hey, I have an idea. No? We're like, hey, can I share an idea with you? No? All closed ecosystem. You can. We need to adapt spaces. We need to understand that cubicles and offices are designed for us to produce. They're not designed for us to be creative. So we need to create in our organization spaces that allows us to be creative. And creative spaces is not about money. It's not a lot of big furniture. It's capacity to space to change. We need to understand that there's no lack of people with great ideas. Everybody's creative. What's missing is spaces that allow people to connect differently. Spaces that adapt to people, not people to spaces. And that's what I'm going to show you now. You can see here IDEO, Google offices. And so like, I'm not going to put my bike upstairs. Like, do I have to put this that way? It only tells you unconsciously that you can do things differently. You can think differently. You have here a cocoon, like the green spot that you see there, is that you can sit and be open, or you want intimacy, you just close the door, you can have a meeting there. Other spaces. We created the hub. The hub was created based on that philosophy. How can space can adapt to people? How can a door be a creative and artistic way? How can tables can invite us to connect differently? We designed those tables in a way that if you sit at the top end of the table, that means that you want to have intimacy or you're working in teams. If you sit in the middle, right in the curve, you're open for conversation. How table can invite us to talk, to reflect. How can rooms, there's a great product that's called Idea Paint. And I suggest you have this in your house. You paint this with your wall with that painting, and it reflects, like it does like the whiteboard effect. So you can write on ceilings, you can write on the floor, you can write everywhere. You can write the way you want. So how can you, what do you need to be creative, inspired? The moment you look for things, you lose the inspiration. And that's a danger. Spaces that can be working room, or they can be showroom for Loewe. And alhamdulillah, we won this year, we won on the 3rd place of the world best, coolest place to work. Offices, open mind, by Inc. magazine. Because we designed the space in a creative way that invite people, and it's not expensive. We did it in a total creative way, and that was the difference. So how can, in the government, we can create spaces for people to go and work, laboratories, safety net for people to take risk? How can we create that in our government? How can we create in the streets spaces for people to be creative, to share their thoughts? I'm going to show you a prototype of a project that we're having. And this is a screen wall that we have on the street. With your iPhone or your BlackBerry, the light of the BlackBerry, the wall recognizes it. So what we did, it was a test. And what you have to do is that people go in the street, when they see that, they have to kill the monsters. Okay? You go with your iPhone, and you go and you try to kill the monsters. I'm going to show you the video, and after that, I'm going to show what we can do with that. So see, people on the streets going, trying to catch the monsters. And on the down left, they have the points. There's a man that just got there with his daughter. And now they're trying to do it, and you see them moving around. See? The question is, imagine that we create those walls on your buildings, and people can vote, people can paint, people can draw. So how can a simple mobile with the light, can only go and invite our citizens to be creative, invites our citizens to be participative? That's the goal to do with that. We tried with a small little game. You see now, it's not perfect. That's a great prototype. But that can happen. So how can we design spaces totally different? In the city of Montreal, we're preparing a program on a 5-year scale on how in 5 years each citizen of the city truly believe that they're creative, truly believe that they can do things differently. And for that, we need to create spaces for that. And this is one of the things we have. A great idea that is around the world, also to create physical spaces, but we can also create virtual spaces. And here what you have is the Mayor Global Alliance. How can mayors around the world can connect and share best practices? All this, you have it on the presentation. Another great idea is City Camp. City Camp, it's all about generating ideas through the citizens. What ideas citizens have that we need to work as a city? So what are the things we need to take on the challenge? This is from Scotland. In Scotland, what they do is that each citizen that wants to improve his neighbor can pull up the idea, and he can find other neighbors that can help him out. That would pull up at the government. And this is like the Mind Lab in Denmark. Imagine that we create social spaces where our citizens can go and prototype this idea, meet other citizens, and create different things. These are ideas, because the role of the government is to canalize ideas of our citizens. We have to inspire our citizens. We have to be more creative so they can present ideas and imagine differently. But to do so, we have to give us a chance. We have to get it wrong, get it fast, and get it cheap. Okay? When we create new ideas or we create a prototype, it has to be perfect. No? We think it has to be perfect, but it's not. This is the first Palm Pilot. Anybody heard about Palm Pilot? Raise hands. Okay. Palm Pilot, it's like, think about the iPhone with a pen, something that we had in the 90s. When they created that technology, it's like an electronic agenda. They said, okay, we want to make sure that if you put it in your pocket, you will forget about it. But what is the right size? What is the right weight for this? So the director of Palm Pilot, the research and development, what he did, he asked people to bring him a piece of wood that represents the right size. Each week he had one in his pocket, and he walks in the street and said, no, this is too big, this is too small. When they got the size, they tried to design it. They started to design it. Because we cannot know everything. We can't. This is where humility comes in. But we can learn to think and act differently. We can learn to think and act differently. Another example with Cirque du Soleil, to pull up a tent at circus, it takes a week, 9 days, more than a week. To put it down takes 2 days. Always 1 week in between for rest. And after that, we start the shows. What happened? We went to a city in the US. What happened? Sandstorm. Sandstorm. Sandstorm, sand all around. If we decide to pull up the tent and put it back, it will take us 11 days, and we're going to lose 3 days of shows. So one lady had an idea. She goes like, what about we call the fireman? And the firemen come, they throw water all around, and we're done. Amazing idea. It took us half a day to remove all the electric things, half a day to wash it, 1 day to dry and put it up. Imagine if the lady would have said, I have an idea, but it's a stupid idea. No book. No, we had no security book saying like, if there's a snowstorm, do this. If you have a sandstorm, do that. But the people has the courage to think differently and act differently. How can we make our team in our government to think and act differently? So creativity is about different people. Different people, radically different people. What is the best team? A, B, or C? Who says A, raise hand. B, C, D, E. I know there's no E, but nobody's raising hands. Okay, if you said C, it's for people having the same vision, acting the same way. They don't ask questions. We're too equal. That means that we have no critical view. B, we're so different that we don't share the same values that we don't move because we pass the time fighting. A is the people that are different, sharing the same value, and they are critical regarding the purpose they're working on. So by bringing different people, we can move on forward. As Einstein said, no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness. And the only way we can change consciousness is inviting fresh people. People that don't know. Imagine that you bring kids to talk about, to reflect about the challenges that you have in the government. Probably they're going to have a great idea. Why not? We have amazing kids in Dubai. I'm going to show you 3 examples that we had with Creative Society in the Hub. What can do a financial guy with a movie guy and a platform, a web platform? They created Social Bid. Social Bid is the first platform to raise funds for NGOs. We know it's really difficult to raise funds for NGOs. So this little man, he's 28 years old in Spain, he had one idea. Buying all the old stuff of an organization and sell it again. But that means a lot of costs. So we brainstormed with him and we worked on the project and we said, what about generating a new idea, new experiences? How much people will pay to have a movie maker, a famous movie maker, analyzing his movie script? How much will you pay to play tennis with Rafa Nadal? How much will you pay to learn to play soccer with Cristiano Ronaldo? It's priceless. So what we did, we brought those famous people, and all the money that they raised, they go for that donation, for those organizations. What's interesting is that eBay jumped in. eBay jumped in because they found this idea fabulous. What have it in common? A hospital and a Formula One company. What they can do together. They created together a new way to do medicine. Great Ormond Street Hospital, Children's Charity, is a hospital that operates babies. They operate the hearts of a baby. When you open a baby, you cut him open, the risk of dying is really high, unfortunately. So we asked those doctors, we asked them, okay, what organization inspires you? What industry inspires you? And they said, the F1.